Her official job is school psychologist, um, but she does so many other things to support our school and me and our students and our families. So really excited to have her here today, talking about restorative practices, which is a process that we've worked with, 3 or 4 years now. Our staff's gone through training, but really felt like it would be so positive to have families be introduced to these strategies and approaches. So I'm really excited to have you. And should we start with some quick introductions? Just if you want to go around, starting over there, just tell us your name and what children you have at our school.
Camden is in kindergarten. I'm Liz, and my daughter Posey's in kindergarten. My son Denver's in second.
I'm Rufus and my children are grown.
I'm Kaua, and my son is in fifth grade.
Hold it the whole time? Oh, okay. I'll start again. I'm Erin Gutzmer. I'm a school psychologist by title. I'm also a parent. I have Bennett, who's in third grade, and Kaylin, my daughter, is in sixth grade. And she went through the whole element. I went to school here, K-12, with several people here. I've been in education, just a little bit about myself before I'm not going to talk at you. It's going to be kind of, and, we'll learn from each other. I started in education when I was 22. I worked at the Northwest Regional Learning Center, which is a alternative type high school that still exists. It's an ESD 189 program for students who just had really significant challenges in their home high school. So I was an instructional assistant or paraeducator for 3 years there while I went through grad school to be a school psychologist. I worked in Snohomish School District as a school psychologist, and then I did 7 years in Mukilteo School District, and I'm on my 7th year here. So Susie and I started, well, you've been in education for a long time, but in her principal role, we started the same year. I started as a school psychologist the same year that Susie started. So I'm refusing to accept that. I haven't even gone there in my head yet. So restorative practices is something that I am really passionate about. In Mukilteo, I was trained, and when I worked at Olympic View Middle School, we were kind of a pilot school that started implementing these practices, and I would go into the general education classrooms and help teachers who were also passionate about this work kind of engage in the community building circles, which is kind of what we look at as like tier 1 for all students. And then we actually were able to do some tier 2, like restorative harm circles is what they were called. The work has evolved since then, and I've still been part of it here at this school. And the students, I think, are pretty well versed in it at this point. All of our classrooms utilize restorative practices. They all do community building circles, I think every day, sometimes more than once a day. And it's part of our school-wide social emotional learning curriculum. The Caring Schools community curriculum is the kind of the foundation is these community building circles to create relationships in the classroom. We know that relationships are key, that when harm does take place, as it will, we have relationships established with one another, and we can come together to kind of resolve conflict. So I'm going to go through kind of what restorative practices can look like in the home setting, and we can just have the time is yours. So if you have questions about what it looks like at school as we go throughout our morning, we can dive into that work too. So I also need to tell you that Well, I am trained in this work and I am a school psychologist. And I am sitting here telling you, kind of giving you some advice, I guess you could say. Parenting is really hard. And while I can sit here and give you the advice, one of my best friends is in the room. Parenting is really hard. And so just take that with a grain of salt, right? All right. Yeah, so right now, there's one other school psychologist. Her name is Sonia Ringsrud, and she is at the 6 through 12 campus. But we do kind of some sharing. So we're both certified. Actually, special education is for ages 3-year-old through now up to 22. And so I'm certified to do all, but I'm primarily at the elementary school. Yeah. So Sonia Ringsrud. Yep. Yep. So. All right, let's practice. Okay, so we're gonna do a little community building circle. I promise I'll keep it lighthearted. This is just a kind of what we do in the classroom and something that you could maybe adapt to home to get kids talking about how was their day, or what's something you're looking forward to. So here are our norms. We are going to respect the talking piece. In this case, I have my little world. You can use anything as a talking piece. We're going to speak from the heart. So your truth, your perspectives, and your experiences. You're going to also listen from the heart. So let go of stories that make it hard to hear one another. Trust that you will know just what to say. There's no need to rehearse. And say just enough without feeling rushed, but be concise and considerate of the time of others. Okay? So let's just start. Please.
You said one thing.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it depends on the age, right, and developmental stage. But one of the things that I know they use in ITK and in kindergarten, so when we're listening, we are looking at the speaker. We are closing our mouth. Our eyes, our ears are, our body is turned toward the speaker. So it's very, and you can adapt. I obviously made this for kind of the group in the room, but you can totally modify it to be much simpler for children. It is. Yes, this is why we practice. Yeah. And this is exactly why we do this every morning. And you can imagine the first day of school and the first week of school. It's like, okay, we're going to keep this very simple. If you were to walk into the classrooms now, they are engaged in high level kind of conversation. Depending on the grade too. So let's just go around. What is your favorite thing to eat? So I'm going to pass the talking piece to my left. So we'll start with Ashley. Yep. I got to go with sushi. Okay. So that was really good. I'm going to point out Macy. So Macy chose to pass, and that's totally okay. So if you don't feel like talking, you can just take the talking piece and pass. I've also had students in middle school. I told you I was kind of part of a pilot program, where there were students that would hold the talking piece and just kind of sit there. And it was like an awkward silence for the kids, but it was like, and this one student in particular, that was their way of like drawing the attention to them, and being in that space and kind of signaling to the kids, like, I'm here and I'm part of this group, and that's totally fine. We're not going to force kids to speak if they don't. All right. Good job. And I don't know if you noticed I was doing this, so that you'll see a lot of your kids probably come home and do that, right? That's me too. So like, I'm agreeing with you. All right. So what are restorative practices? It's a relationship-centered approach to resolving conflict, and it builds community. So we just did it. The whole concept is doing things with one another, not to them or for them. And ultimately, it promotes accountability, it teaches empathy and healing when harm has been done. So here's kind of the traditional approach to discipline. Back in the 80s, what's that movie? Breakfast Club, right? That's the movie that just stands out when I see this traditional approach. School rules are broken, okay? Whereas the restorative approach, people and relationships are harmed, okay? And the traditional approach, justice focuses on establishing guilt. You did this, you did something wrong. And in the restorative approach, it identifies needs and responsibility. So in the traditional approach, accountability equals punishment, whereas restorative approach, accountability equals understanding the impact and repairing the harm that's been done. And I have to tell you, this work really started in our prison systems. And then it's like filtered out into schools. And I have a couple of resources at the end that if you want to kind of go play around more, there's so much online. But the Oakland School District has done profound work in this with practices. In the traditional approach, justice is directed at the offender and the victim is ignored. Whereas in the restorative approach, everybody has a role in the process of healing. Traditional approach, rules and intent outweigh whether the outcome is positive or negative. Restorative approach, the offender is responsible for their harmful behavior, they're responsible for repairing their harm, and they're responsible for working toward positive outcomes. And then in the traditional approach, there's limited opportunity for expressing remorse and making amends. Whereas in the restorative approach, we provide opportunity to make amends and to express. Yeah. For the harm, for the harm that's been done, right? Yeah. So why might you use these at home? Okay, so here's just points. It helps to build trust and respect. It helps children learn to take responsibility for their actions and teaches empathy. It reduces yelling, punishment, and power struggles with child or a child and child. And it encourages open communication. So some key concepts. So this is when harm has been done. Restorative questions that you would ask is, so what happened? Okay. And you could even go over the circle guidelines. If depending on, who is involved, respect that we're going to come together. We're going to respect the talking piece. We're going to listen from the heart. We're going to let go of stories that make it hard to hear the other person. Right. And we're going to say just enough. And then you could, with that, say, okay, first I'm going to have Ashley talk. Right. Ashley, what happened? Tell us what happened. Okay. And you're going to speak your truth and your perspective. And then the other person is going to talk. And even if it's their perspective, right? Whether right or wrong, we're going to let them share their perspectives. Okay. Who was affected by what happened? Okay. Sometimes it's more than two parties. And what do you think needs to be done to make it right? And depending on the situation, you might ask the person who caused the harm first, what do you think needs to be done to make it right? Or in some situations, you might ask the person who was harmed, what do you think? What do you think would make this right? So that the person who's done the harm can hear that. iMessages are really powerful, right? I feel hurt when you money from my wallet because that's stealing, right? When you take money from my wallet without asking, that hurts. Yeah.
Because
For a lot of us, right? Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good question. So we engage in this work daily, right? Susie, Kristen, Carly, me. And it depends on the situation. And what we typically do is we meet with the individuals first. We hear, so in this case, Noe, I would hear Noe's perspective, right? Then I would hear the other people's perspectives individually, right? I would then ask Noe, are you willing to talk with this person? And she might say, no way, I don't want, and you're not going to force this process on somebody who's not ready to do it, right? We only engage in this work if they're at a place where they're willing to talk with cause the harm. Yeah. And I can totally see. So if it's a group of people, back when we had the South Campus, I can think of a situation I would have done completely differently in hindsight. Where it was this group of like 5 girls. And I didn't realize it at the time until we were engaged in the circle. And this with me, Susie, that there was one girl in that group that was getting picked on by all of the others. And it's like in that moment, I don't even remember what I did, but I had to like think on my toes to try to protect that person, right? And so I was like, well, that was fail. I shouldn't have done that, right? Sometimes that is, right? We're only human. Might not go perfect. A lot of times it's like, wow, we engage in this work and we're like, that was powerful. Most of the time it's like, that was so effective. And now the kids are so trained in it that they can go and do that, right? And I'm going to pick out Brianne, our PE teacher. She has what she calls a conflict corner. And it's basically like, okay, if a student comes up and says, you know, Miss Bishop, this kid did this. Like, do you want to take that to the conflict corner? And they just do the work with each other because they're already trained in it. It's harder for adults because we were not, this is not how discipline was handled when we were in school. So it's a whole shift. Kids learn things faster than, you know, their brains are sponges. Yeah.
okay.
Well,
Me, not the kids.
right. So I preface this by saying, I'm going to teach you all these things, but I am only human and when it's like, I feel you in those moments where it's like, okay, I can hold it together some days and other days it's like, you know, how do you hold it together? I don't know. Like that's,
Can I throw something in? Because I know for me, sometimes it's like, if I get hooked, emotionally by what's going on, I know I have to wait. I can't do it when I got to wait till I'm in a centered, calm place before. So that would be maybe the next morning or the next day.
yep. Yep. Oh yeah. The kids know if I'm in my room and my bedroom door is shut, do not even bother knocking. Yeah. I need a minute. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yes. Yep. Right. Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 We have emotions. There's a strategy that I will teach to some students, and I practice this on my own a lot. It's called SODA. It's an acronym. So the S is for stop, the O is observe, the D is decide, and the A is act. So in that, sometimes when I'm in a moment where I'm like, it's gonna flip, or I need to leave, or what have you, you can think SODA, right? Okay, stop, observe what's going on, decide on what strategy I'm going to use in this moment, which could be walking away. It could be trying to pull one of my kids aside, whatever that is, and then act, then carry out that action. So it causes you to like stop and think for just a second before having that initial reaction, that initial emotional reaction. So the SODA strategy. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then family agreements. So if depending on what grade your student's in, and I think this came home when my kid was in first or second grade. Part of our Caring Schools community curriculum was, and it's during I think the first month or so of school. My kid brought home the shared agreements from the classroom, and then the worksheet for the home was to kind of come up with your own family agreements or whatever. Yeah. So we still have those posted in our kitchen. In fact, that reminds me, I should probably refer back to those more than I do. But do any of you have shared family agreements?
Have a just a saying like, is it safe and is it kind? Like that, and that's been helpful with friends and kind, and then you can kind of step in and be like, okay, what was it? Or just to anchor around that, and I think this is really helpful. Okay, how do we handle this? But if you have that same,
And it's what we're doing at school, right?
totally, yeah, it's there. That's what they're.
Uh, slut. We had the golden rule, treat others like you want to be treated, until my son twisted that and was like, well, Nora was mean to me, so clearly she wants to be treated meanly. And then so we're working on a new one.
That's great. Outsmarted you. Does that.
Well, it's just the two of us at home, so it's me and my daughter. But a lot of it is if something happens, even if it's not always like a verbal behavior, but even physical, it's always say something. Like if you drop a glass or you get in, something upsets her, like to say it, but also because I know my own child has a hard time breaking away from an intense situation, there's this one rule that if I ask her to say, come into the kitchen and help, or set the table, like a little thing that I can use to intentionally draw her away, she knows that that is like she has to do it. There's like no questions about it. And I know it's for her, but to her, she thinks it's like a chore. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. A derail, right? Yep. Derailing strategies. All do a lot, I'm sure. So you could try a family circle. We've kind of practiced one in this situation. Obviously, it would look differently in your home, depending on, who's in your home. But it's a structured conversation where everyone gets a turn to speak. And how do you do it? We use the talking piece like we have here. You could do anything to take turns, and you choose the topic. So start if this isn't something you currently do in your home, start with something really easy that the kids are going to want to answer. I don't know how many of you, your kid gets home from school and you're like, "How was your day?" "Good." "What'd you do?" "I don't remember." Right? Okay, we're all kind of there. So in order to like get kids talking about things, you have to start with something that's a preferred like thing to answer. So, you know, who did you play with at recess? Or what did you do in your PE class today? Or something that's going to get them like a specific question that's going to get them talking. What's one thing that made you smile today? Right. And then listen from the heart without interrupting. So there's an easier kind of agreements in the home or respecting the circle.
So when I came. And table, and everyone is immediately paying attention.
Yeah.
The other one naming it. But even you.
Yep.
Thin air. Okay. I snapped the break.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yes.
That's a good reminder for me because it would be really fun for you to say that and then something very positive, right?
Oh.
That's a-
Yeah, that would, so I
Yeah.
actually have done that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so
Got to get those positive postcards back. Okay, so here's some tools. So repair conversations after conflict, right? So focus on feelings and impact, not blaming. So, what were you feeling when that happened? What were you thinking? Sometimes feeling's hard. So if they can't identify the feeling, they oftentimes will be able to easier identify what were you thinking in that moment, right? Whether they were harmed or the person that was doing the harm. So daily check-ins, how are you feeling today? Have you heard of the 5-point scale? It can really, it's called, so the official title is the Incredible 5-point scale. It can be applied to anything. It can be applied to any feeling, to any situation. So sometimes I'll use it as like a 1 to 5. And so like in this situation, you know, a 1 was like, I was calm, cool, you know, everything was fine. And a 5 was horrible. I was so mortified, embarrassed, what have you, to kind of get my kids to, you know, rate how big of a deal was it. Rosebud thorn. Do you all know that strategy? Yeah. So that's a fun one to use, like at the dinner table or whenever you're together as a family, to get kids and you thinking about, okay, the rose is what was the highlight of your day, right? And the bud is, we do it as either what's something that you're looking forward to, or what's something that you would like to happen again. And then the thorn is what was the negative part of your day. I just saw Sonia Richards in the office, and she was like, I'm sorry, I can't come. And I was like, well, you could probably teach this class or teach this presentation this morning. She's like, yes, I use high, low, buffalo. So the high is the, you know, what was the positive part of your day. The low is what was the low part of your day. And the buffalo is like a surprise, right? A funny thing. Okay. So that one's kind of cute. I'm going to try that one. You can also, like, when my son was younger, he would have a hard time, like, kind of coming up with his rose and his bud and his thorn. And so we had our dog, and I was like, okay, Bennett, what was Bishop's rose today? Right. And so it was like getting him to participate by using the pet. And that was kind of just where he was at for a little while. And now he can, you know, fully participate in his rose, bud, and thorn. Shared responsibilities, like we're a family unit. Like, this isn't my kitchen that I have to clean, even though I am the primarily the one that's in the kitchen. Like, this is our kitchen, and we have to unload the dishes. And if we can all come together to get the kitchen cleaned up and make lunches for tomorrow, then we can have more time to play games and turn on the TV, right? We can't turn on the TV until the kitchen's clean. So you can either help or it's going to take longer. We might not even get to the TV, right? And of course, there's chores that are developmentally appropriate depending on the age and stage of your kids. And then this one is so important. I think to me, it's like the biggest one that I can model to my kids, because I tend to be kind of type A and like I don't know, it's just how I'm wired. But admit your mistakes. So we all make mistakes, and we all sometimes our feelings get the best of us, or we lose our temper, or whatever you describe it as, and just own that in that space. And just, you know, like yesterday morning was just a challenge for my family getting out the door, and I was not my proud parenting moment, and I kind of felt bad throughout the day. And then after school, I said, you know, I'm really sorry about this morning. I was just really rushed to get out the door. I had a meeting I was 5 minutes late to, and like, I just, you know, I'm only human, and will you forgive me? And they were like, yeah. Kids like to see that adults make mistakes. I'll pick on Michelle's Zizette. She calls it an oops. Like, whenever throughout the day, she'll be like, oops, Mrs. Zizette just made an oops. We all make oops, right? And so kids like to see that, because make mistakes, and that's how we learn, and that's how we grow. Any other tools that you can think of that you use that I don't have on the list? Oh, yeah, that's good. Low stim.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know about your kids, but it's like, Yeah. Yeah. It's like when they hit the pillow. That's how I don't know about you guys, but that's how it is for me too. When as soon as I hit the pillow, I'm like, oh, there's that. All your thoughts just come flooding back. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's funny. Oh, I want to ride horses at preschool. That sounds like a great preschool. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Sure.
This last week, Jack was able to reach up and grab his own bowl out of the upper cupboard. And he's a tall first grader. And I went, whoa, that is so cool. Now you can put the dishes from the dishwasher, not just the silverware, but you can put the ones up above. And it's like, oh, of course, Grandma, because I'm tall.
Yeah.
And it's like moving on those chores as he develops. So it's great.
Yeah. That's a fun age where they can, yeah, such a special, like adults, but they're still young and innocent. And yeah, you know. Yeah, the silence is a big one. My kids can't stand it. And finally, like, I'll just say, I trust that you two know how to. Yeah. I'll have to recommend that book to my husband. He manages a group of adults are. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That traditional discipline window. Mhm. Yes. Now, is there a time and a place for that? Yes. Yeah. 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 Uh-huh. Yeah.
I found it to be really helpful when I can use the same language that they're using in the class. So, like what you were saying, it aligns with the Orca code in a way. Yeah, it's very relatable. And my daughter is very sneaky, but she'll say things at night sometimes like, Mom, that really took from my cup or my bucket. And I'm like, oh, but then again, when you use that language, they're more willing to elaborate and talk about why and what that means. I also thought it was really helpful when you were saying that sometimes feelings is hard to describe because I think that's difficult for one of my kids.
Yeah.
And so what were you thinking in that moment was really helpful. So
Yeah.
thanks for sharing that.
Yep.
Requiring kids to say, I'm sorry, is really teaching them to lie because maybe they aren't. And how to bring about the look of what has happened to the other person and get that empathy going. And then how to restore that relationship is so important instead of, oh, I'm sorry. And they're off to do it again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just, it's so true. I just did a restorative circle yesterday and we had a really good conversation. And then I asked the child who had kind of caused the harm, or no, who had the harm done to him, are you ready to make it right? And he said, no, not right now. I need some more time. It's like, okay, and that's powerful for children to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Good job using the 5-point scale. Yeah. Yeah. We can learn a lot from our kids. No, yeah.
I'm gonna say
Yeah.
use how I can address it, how we.
And as adults, sometimes we have to help them be their voice, right? There's a time and a place where that is intimidating. I can't imagine either one of my kids willing to go have a conversation like that, right? And so, maybe you coming together with a teacher, or if your child is willing to sit in the space, that teacher or with that teacher, That's probably how I would go about it. Yeah.
So there's some concrete.
Yes. But it's so powerful for us as adults to learn this work, right?
Right.
Yeah, because as adults, we have to be the ones to sometimes, not to model, right, for kids, how to have those conversations. You know what I mean? And I live right next door to my parents. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Being being a grandma, I appreciate a phone call beforehand, or this situation's going to come up. Are you ready for it? But also, you can intervene ahead of time, not in front of the child, and make sure he understands this is how I'm raising my child.
Yeah, he's aware.
But then we're going to keep our comments to adults.
Right.
And then I'll need to leave. I'll take my son and go home.
Oh, no. And, oh, yeah, that's a hard dynamic.
That's where I.
Yeah, that is a tough dynamic. Yeah.
Or one of the, I think Erin, your suggestion.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Like this is our family agreement, and this.
Yeah.
I remember we did like premarital counseling, and one of the things that was interesting was like your family, extended family, which are your parents, but your family is your little nucleus. Setting that expectation of what that's hard with grandparents.
Yeah. I mean, I have a similar kind of dynamic in my and yeah, 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 absolutely. Yeah. And that's also just one of those generations have a different relationship with, right? Or, What I do sometimes is like, if I completely disagree with the way that has kind of handled something, I will address him privately without my kids being there. And I will also talk to my kids, like, excuse it and it doesn't make it okay. But I just want you to have some context as to why right? And again, it depends on the age and the developmental stage of your kid. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Modeling. Yeah. Right, right. Good stuff. Um, 5 minutes? Okay. I know. So here are just some sample kind of home scenarios. We've been talking through a lot of things, kind of bigger scenarios, I think, than what I've listed here, or more complex, I guess. But so siblings fight over toys, right? Common one. You might use a circle to hear both sides, like we've been talking about, and ask, how did that make you feel? What were you thinking? How did that make you feel? What can we do differently, right? Or a missed chore that, right? Tell me what happened. How can we fix this? What you do? Or if they're using a disrespectful tone, right? And love and logic I'm very passionate about love and logic. I mean, high nurture, high structure, high nurture, high expectations, high nurture, a lot of love, but we are going to talk to each other respectfully. And then back to the I messages, right? I feel kind of a tone. Let that sit in and then pause. Like, use your I statement and pause and lock into that eye contact too, so they can feel what you're feeling. Okay. And then just some tips, try for being consistent. You're not going to be perfect. There's just no way. At practice your active listening. And like I said, in body listening. So eyes on the speaker, body turned toward the speaker, not fidgeting with things. I think like our phones and our devices are just constantly there. Like, put those aside and have an authentic conversation, not distracted by other things going on. Celebrate your small wins, write them down, keep a little journal when something goes well. You're like, oh yeah, I did that. That worked in my family tonight, right? And then keep it age appropriate. So some of the things we're talking about, especially that first circle go around, I adapted it more for kind of older adults in the room. You can totally simplify it. Yeah, and then just be flexible. Might not work, and it might be an epic fail, and oh well, we'll try again. Okay. Check out. We got 4 minutes. Good checkout circle. Okay, so we're gonna try it again. Hold on, I want to figure out what question we're gonna ask. This has been my little cheat sheet since I was in Mukilteo. So I've had this little flip book for like 9 years now, and I still use it when I'm asked by Susie to facilitate a circle or a restorative conversation. So let's go ahead and say, let's see. What's one takeaway from our time together? One takeaway, like one aha or something you learned or something that you're kind of like, what's that thought that's kind of playing in your head from our conversation this morning? And remember, please respect the talking piece. Speak from your heart. Listen from your heart. Say just enough. And trust that you'll know what to say. Okay, I'll start with Susie. Or I'll start with Christy.
I guess my takeaway is just gratitude that you all show up, first of all, and that we can have these kind of conversations together. And for Erin, your expertise and your heart that you bring to your work with our families and our kids. So
since it's my first coffee with the principal, is really just to how much I actually do have in common with the other parents in the school. Yeah. Kind of have felt like I was having issues with my, but I don't, and I'm not, and it's kind of relieving.
our house and my takeaway is I just thanks for letting me be a parent in this moment and sharing my because I'm really in the thick of it with all of you with the same my kids are the same ages as stretch pants that I wear out and about. So it's like yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, for sure. There's this resource that I actually, just as I was preparing this presentation, I came across this online. So it's free on Google, but it's linked in the, if you just copy the link into your search browser, you'll find this. And this is a really helpful handout that kind of talks about the history of like discipline and restorative justice. It's got this this traditional versus the restorative approach. And it's got some of the circle questions, and it's also got a little bit more information that we didn't kind of go into today. So this is a really great resource. Let's see, the Center for Restorative Processes is a really great website too. And then Sound Supports, that's where I went through my training. I don't know that they're still, that's Carol Froge. I think they stopped doing their trainings in 2023. And they moved on to doing something else, but their website is still there. And there's really powerful videos of restorative practices in action on that website. I just watched one that kind of I had watched years ago, and I watched it again, and it's so powerful. It's this high school group in the Oakland, Oakland's like high crime area, used to be really like a lot of kids involved in the criminal justice system. And they've just made this huge shift into restorative practices as a school district. And so if you're curious, go play around on that website and watch some of those videos. Yeah, thank you. This is great. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, thanks for coming. Oh.